Chapter 5 What is taught and what is curriculum? We define curriculum as all organized and intended experiences of the students for which the school accepts responsibility. In other words, the curriculum is not just the intellectual content of the subjects taught, but also the methods used to teach them, the interactions that occur among people, and the school-sponsored activities that contributed to the life experience. Educational theorists have identified several different kinds of curricula, including formal, extra, and hidden curricula. Let's briefly examine these different kinds of curricula. The planned content and objectives of the language arts, mathematics, science, and all other subjects areas available to the students constitute the formal or explicit curriculum that states that planned objectives in language arts, mathematics, science, and all other subjects available to students constitute the formal or explicit curriculum. The states of those and the local schools boards are responsible for determining the subjects and will be taught in this formal curriculum. Later in this chapter, we will examine the formal curriculum of the schools, including trends and controversials in each year of the major content areas. What students learn in the environment of the school extends beyond the planned curriculum, of course, of subjects they will take, or the extracurricular activities in which they participate. That is, school also teach or hidden informal curriculum through which is the classroom and school as learning environment socialize children to the values that are acceptable to the institution and society at large. The messages of the hidden curriculum are usually conveyed indirectly and deal with attitudes, values, beliefs, and behaviors. These messages can either support or undermine the formal curriculum. When the hidden and formal curricula conflict, many observers believe the hidden curriculum carries more weight. What are these attitudes and values, and how are they communicated to students? A major purpose of the hidden curriculum in schools has been teach in the students routines and values for getting along in schools, and a larger society thus tends to have conservative bent focusing on preserving the stage quo. In the eyes of some critics, the hidden curriculum of the schools works against diversity, equity, and social justice. Our researchers suggest that schools value several specific ways of thinking and behaving. For example, schools emphasize complaint behavior as opposed to personal initiatives. Students soon learn to give the teacher what she or she wants, or the system determine just what to expect to get the grade. The teacher's attention examples of the athletics grading systems that compare students to one another, and the many ways in which students learn and which the school values include how the school accolades time as subjects of the study, the rules established for the school, and even agriculture and furnishings of the school. As a future teacher, you should be able to identify which rules are the behavioral rituals and ceremonies and accepted patterns of the teacher and student interaction are communicated to students at schools you visit. Does the climate in the classroom and the school suggest warmth, support the diversity and nurturing of the individuals, or does it convey a mood or disinterest? Regimentation and then antipathy among staff and students. Most important, what is school deeper message and the stance a student should take toward current society? Standards-based reform movement. In this chapter, we examine the formal curriculum. Those subjects that are taught in the schools are some of the forces and instructional approaches that influence how they are taught. The typical school curriculum is the subject matter curriculum, organized according to a subject matter division of the most efforts that go in a curriculum. In Chapter 2, what school is and what is it for? We discuss how the curriculum is a social bet, but on the knowledge, skills, and attitudes of the older generation, things that you need to know prosper personally and economically. In the 21st century, there is no by means of consequence among parties involved in the placing of the social bet. In fact, curriculum decision making can be resemble in a battlefield in which conservatives and liberals, religious and agnostics, whites and people of color, many other groups grapple to ensure their beliefs and perspectives and represented the school's curriculum. These curriculum battles are both state and local levels can be treated, and those engaged believe there is no stake in essence of the future United States. By 1996, the centralization efforts has lost steam, giving way to growing consensus by the settling of standards in a curriculum shouldn't remain the perspective of individual states. Interestingly, many times continue to use the national standards developed by different academic groups and form them their own state standards. For example, the current Common Core, the state standards in different subject matter and grade levels. By the beginning of the 21st century, even state had developed its own standards for student learning, and most states backed up their new standards with rigorous accountability measures for both students and educators. The National No Child Left Behind Act of 2001 promoted accountability measures even more strongly. We require states to administer annual statewide assessments in reading and mathematics to all kindergarten students 3 through 8. For more on the law, see Chapter 11, How are schools governed, influenced, and financed? See and Chapter 12, How should education be reformed? Common Core State Standards. In 2010, led by the National Governors Association and by the Council's Chief of State School Officers, a set of Common Core Standards was developed in English language, arts, and mathematics. The Common Core State Standards intended to define the knowledge and skills students should have within their K-12 education career so they will graduate high school and able to succeed in entry-level credit-bearing academic college courses and in the workforce training programs. These standards address a weakness of the system and individual state standards, that is, the difficulty level of standards and the test assesses the varied greatly. As a result, some states have high standards and lower pass rates, while other states have lower standards with higher pass rates. Many people believe that what students should Okay, I didn't know that ended. What is the present curriculum? English language arts. The language arts program seek develop in children the skills of reading, writing, speaking, and listening, as well as a knowledge of cultural as represented in literature. The importance of language arts cannot be overemphasized because no subject can be successfully studied without adequate language skills. In elementary schools, most language arts programs focus on helping students develop written and oral communication skills, comprehension and problem solving strategies, creating an appreciation for language and literature. At the secondary level, English courses focus on integration of the language arts and using literature as a prime motivator. Issues and trends. Teachers today are selecting literature that is relevant to the students' interests yet representative of accepted literary tradition, balancing classic literature and selection with works by and about minority groups, instructing students in critical thinking, encouraging writing across the curriculum, discussed later in this chapter, integrating various language arts by example, linking reading and writing together. Major disagreements exist in the field of reading education. The basic debate is whether reading instruction should emphasize the integration of language arts, skills, and knowledge in a literature-based approach, commonly known for a whole language approach, or whether it should focus on phonics instruction, an approach to reading that teaches the reader to decode words by sounding out letters and combination of letters. The whole language approach of reading stress that children should be use language in ways that relate to their own lives and culture. Advocates of this approach that tolerates the use of invented spelling by children because it is seen as a part of the child reading development and because it is feared that a correcting child's even spelling error will discourage a child from enjoying writing. Whole language teaching uses but a common techniques is the daily journal and letter writing a great deal. During the 1970s and 1980s, whole language approaches to reading displaced the phonics approach, and many schools eventually discontent with declining reading scores in states and emphasize the whole language approach. Northern California spread a renewed interest in phonics. In fact, the issue has become politically charged, with many conservatives supporting phonics and many liberals supporting whole language approaches. Although both the whole language and phonics camps have their strong believers, recent researchers conclude that it is important to teach explicit systematic phonics within a context of meaningful literature. Phonemic awareness, the understanding of the sounds that make up language, seems to be crucial to the development of good readers. Thus, a balanced use of both approaches rather than the abandonment of the one approach in favor of the other seems to be the key of reading instruction. Many major publishers are now including both approaches in their reading series. Um, Science. Science in the elementary grades take advantage of the children and natural curiosity about the whole world around them. Plants, season, cooler, light, sound and animals. In the upper elementary and middle school grades, the curriculum expands to include weather and climate, solar system, electricity, and health-related topics. The secondary school science curriculum is still centered on yearling courses, general science, biology, chemistry, and physics, despite the efforts of the science educators and the foster integral, which improves subjects is taught each year. Issues and trends. Two major questions drive science education reform. Where will the next generation of the scientists come from? And how can all students be prepared to make informed judgments about such critical and science-based issues in environmental pollution, energy sources, and biotechnology. For reformers, there has been both good news and bad news concerning science education in the United States. The bad news is that the American youth do not know much science. The good news is that the county is reaching consensus about how to remedy the problem. The science curriculum has been undergoing dramatic redirection as a result of the Project 206, named for the years which Halley's Comet is a expected to return initiative of the American Association of Advertisement. Issues and trends. Again, a major debate is raging over whether the local studies curriculum overemphasizes European history and culture at the expense of Asian, African, and Latin American history and culture. We discuss this issue later in the chapter. Civic learning and civic education is another issue gaining the attention of social studies educators. Advocates of the new focus call for courses that will acquaint a racially and culturally diverse student population with the heritage common to the American democratic tradition. These new courses would extend the basic study of American law and government to include trends in the history, issues in a contemporary society, and questions of their character and values through critical study of this case histories and current news. Standards have been developed by various national organizations representing history, geography, economics, civics, and social studies. Unfortunately, these subject standards were developed independently of one another and nor do relate to one another. The National Council of the Social Services, NCSS, has articulated a framework that seeks to foster academic and civic competence by integrating the national standards across various social sciences. 10 themes are highlighted in the framework: 1. Culture, 2. People, places, and environments, 3. Individual groups and institutions, 4. Production, distribution, and 5. Consumption, 5. Global connections, 6. Time continually in change, 7. Individual development identity, 8. Power, authority, and governance, 9. Science, technology, and society, and 10. Civic ideals and practices. The arts. The arts include visual arts, music, dance, theater. Arts and music in elementary schools are only taught by regular classroom teachers, although some schools hire specialist teachers in some of both areas. Dance and theater are largely ignored in elementary schools, despite the fact that children of this age are less inhibited and seem to enjoy these activities more than do secondary school students. The small amount of instruction provided in the arts for elementary students contrasts with high school offerings such as drama clubs, orchestras, bands, dance groups. In most instances, instruction in music and dance during a child's elementary school years takes form of private instruction outside the public school. Issues and trends. Programs in the arts traditionally indeed emphasize the creation of an art object of development and performance. Most recently, newer programs have emphasized aesthetic education, a way of knowing and perceiving the world. Curriculum specialists have suggested integrating the arts with the other subject matters to show usefulness of the arts and to appeal to a broader range of intelligence. See Chapter 3. There is a little doubt that the arts can play a crucial role in the development of cultured, educated people, and that they respond to a deep instinct in humanity. Even so far that the arts remain in the endangered species, subject to extinction whenever budget occurs when high stakes and the standards in language, mathematics, and science dictate teachers should emphasize in their classrooms. Physical education and health. Physical education by the through human movement contributes to physical fitness, skill and knowledge development, and social and psychological development. Currently, physical education curricula are designed to respond to four needs. One, need to develop aerobic capacity to maintain acceptable cardiovascular efficiency. Two, no need to achieve the appropriate levels of the body fat. Three, the need to acquire strength and perform expected tasks of living. And four, the need to be flexibility of abdominal strength and avoid lower back injuries. To address the nose needs of sports school alternative jogging, bicycling, yoga, and cross-country skiing. Students are given information on exercise and nutrition so they can understand how to balance the caloric intake and maintain an appropriate body fat level. Physical education teachers are typically licensed for both elementary and secondary teaching, but teachers usually seek out age levels in which they are most interested. Physical education teachers are also trained to adapt activities for children with disabilities. Elective courses. Elective courses. Elective courses. Most high schools today offer their students a number of options regarding the courses they take, whereas the average high school student graduates with about 20 units. One year-long course represents 1 unit. The large high schools may offer as many as 100 courses. The average student then will probably choose among optional courses according to an individual interest and academic career ambitions. Examples of elective courses might include personal finance, art history, introduction to computers, applications, psychology, and anthropology. Career and technical education. The purpose of career and technical education, formerly called vocational education, is to provide a foundation of skills that allow high school students to become gainfully employed after graduating. This subject area is most commonly associated with career and technical education are business, trade, and industrial education, health, occupations, agricultural, family, and consumer sciences, marketing, and teaching. In recent decades, career and technical education has become under the fire. Those who know inadequacy in preparing students for careers in high technology fields in other countries now dominant service economy. Reformers urge teachers fields in our country now dominant service economy. Reformers urge teachers to help students see the relationships between the topics that they study and to help students see the relationships between the topics so that they study and applicants in the real world context and emphasize real life problem solving. Many school to work programs designed to help students develop skills and understandings that we prepare to them to adapt to the changing needs of the workplace that have been developed. Such programs take many different forms, ranging from career academics that feature specialized career-oriented curricula in such areas as health professions, business, or law to paid internships and co-op express expresses school work with local businesses, design courses and experiences that will prepare high school students for particular kinds of jobs that meet local business needs. Hundreds of thousands of businesses nationwide now participate in school to work partnerships. National Assessment of Education Process Progress. Since their introduction more than 30 years ago, National Assessment of Education Progress (NAEP) assessments have been conducted periodically in reading, mathematics, science, writing, history, geography, and other fields. Administrators represented national sample of students in the NAEP assessments are the primary source of educational achievement in the United States and have become known as the nation's report card. Although most states assess their students in the context standards, they do not use the same standards or the same tests. So until the Common Core state standards in English, arts, and mathematics discussed either earlier in the chapter become operational, comparisons across the state are mainly limited to the NAEP data. Assessment occurs at three grade levels, 4th, 8th, and 12th. Achievement levels are defined as basic, denoting partial mastery of knowledge and the skill fundamentals for proficient work. Proficient representing solid academic performance relative to challenging subject matter for the grade level, and advanced signifying superior performance. Okay. Innovative instructional approaches. Curriculum and instruction are intimately related, and the instructional approaches that teachers are usually clear shape how students experience the curriculum. Although these approaches have remained amazingly constant since the 1890s, especially at the secondary level, some alterations to the traditional teacher-centered instruction have been taken hold. Educators are consistently searching for new ways to deliver the curriculum more effectively. All of the trends discussed here can be used in a variety of subject areas with students of many age and ability levels. We will look at six non-traditional instructional influences on the curriculum: interdisciplinary curriculum, cooperative learning, critical thinking, and problem-solving writing across the curriculum, differentiated instruction, and block scheduling. Cooperative learning. Cooperative learning in classrooms is another trend influencing what is taught in the schools. Those who have analyzed the hidden curriculum and implemented teaching schools communicating to students have observed that U.S. schools tend to reward competitive or individual competence more than a cooperative. Arguing for cooperative learning techniques, some educators maintain that such techniques can change the ways the students learn, their attitudes toward their way taught, and perceptions of themselves and others. By their structure and individual assignments, cooperative learning strategies avoid the problem of letting the hardworking students in the groups do all the work while the other students get a free ride. Such strategies provide proven successful across grade levels and different subjects. Although the effectiveness of cooperative learning, particularly for achievement outcomes, depends on the particular approach used, overall positive effects have been found on such diverse outcomes: a self-esteem, intergroup relations, acceptance of academics, lower students' attitude towards school, and ability to work cooperatively. And believe the end.